Hello students, we're going to keep working on these Samurai Warrior helmets today. I have noticed a couple things. As I painted on it, some of it's starting to get a little bit loose. So I'm going to ask you to at least glue some of it. The main part to glue is like right under this piece. You can see kind of where I haven't painted it yet. But if you just put a little bit of glue on here, I'm hoping that's going to help hold it together more. Most origami doesn't need any glue or tape, but since we're painting on this, might as well make sure it's gonna stay down. And I'm gonna put glue on this piece also, right in here, to get this line. Might even be a wiser decision to put it right here on this side that gets folded up. So then I'm hoping as we go that it doesn't come unfolded. So you don't want to glue up too high, obviously, and to the spots where we're going to paint it. But I'm going to do this. I've already got paint on mine, so I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to rub the inside so I don't smear the paint. So kind of press it down, get it to stick good. You might need to press it for a while until the glue starts to dry on its own. So just putting my hand kind of in the inside and pressing that all down. I would definitely do this longer than I'm doing it right now, but because of work time, I want you guys to have enough time to work. So here, you can see that I've already worked on the front, but you can do some designing as well on the back. If we're gonna be doing the front and the back, you need to be thinking to yourself, well, I can't let my paintbrush get too wet, because otherwise you won't be able to do two sides. If you do just one side, I suppose that's all right, but I think it'd be even cooler if it's two-sided since it's sculptural. So I think that's pressed down good. Turn your glue cap down, or your glue down, and cap it. Now here, a few things that I'm thinking about. Yeah, I think that holds together a lot better. Number one thing, when you're using your brush today, make sure you have lots of black paint on it. You are welcome to use any lines from here. You can see I use a lot of zigzag line, I use some straight line, I use some looping line. We can use the brush to stamp on scales, like the scales that we did on our dragons. Here on the back, I took some kanji. I took this idea of peace on the front and happiness on the back, so I just kind of sketched that in with pencil. Make sure that if you're doing the kanji, you're doing it really big. You can see I did one really large one. That's going to be helpful to be able to paint it. If it's too small, it's hard to paint. You can see I did some lines, and I am practicing symmetry as well so that both sides are the same. So here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines on this side. So let's go back to the front here, and let's get my brush ready. So here, you want way more paint than you need water. You know you're doing the right thing if the paint is drying really fast. If it's taking a long time for your paint to dry, that means that you need to get more paint. So I'm kind of spinning my brush, always keeping it in a point, getting a lot of black paint on it. Then you can see here, I painted in some broken line. I did some dotted line also. I did some looping line. I did some straight line. If you want to make some lines darker and thicker, that can be a good idea. So then I can have a combination of thick line and thin line. This is that stamped design like we did for your dragons. Now this is drying quite fast. It's only taking, like, I can see this line is almost dry. These lines are dry. That's almost dry. These scales probably need or these scaly textures need maybe just a few more seconds and they'll be good. So you know you're doing the right thing if it's dry. Now, I should let it dry just a little longer for those pieces, but I think it would be fun for us to be able to do the back as well. So here, let's check and make sure that my brush is nice and dark. Let's see here. Yep, it's very dark. It's not like spreading out and making the paper around it wet. If that's happening, that's saying too much water. So I kind of like that I sketched this in big with my pencil, so then it'll be easy to see what the design is. And then I haven't even added any more water to my brush yet. I've just added more paint. So if you're dipping your brush into the water all the time, you're gonna get way too much water. It's gonna be way too wet. So here I might get just the tip of my brush wet, not even the whole thing, just like a little bit. Now, dry super fast. Sometimes I even like to make some of this stuff even thicker. That's also why I kind of want these lines to be wide, make those details stand out. Be careful though if you're doing what I'm doing and you're painting over something, that you don't paint over it so many times that it gets too wet. Now once I have this detail on here, then I'm going to think about some of these lines that I have painted over here. Gonna get a lot of black paint on. And I think I'm gonna do a combination of thin and thick lines. So right now they're all thin. I'm gonna make sure to do this other side. So you can see this part is pretty wet. That's like starting to spread out a little bit. So observe as you go to say, well, this has taken a while to dry. That's too much water. That will help you in the process if you're paying attention to what's happening to the surrounding lines that you've already done. So I'm giving these a chance to dry over here so I can come back and add thicker line. So if I did a curved line on that side, I'm gonna do a curved line on this side. If you want to paint these ones that are over here on the back too, you can do that. If you get a little bit of paint on the table, we'll just wipe that up. But now I said that I wanted to do some thicker lines. I think that just gives some good variation. So then you can have some thick line and thin line. So here we'll make these lines wider. And then this one a skinny line. Then we'll make this one a thick line, and that can do some nice patterning as well. Thin line, and then some thicker line. And then let's just make that match on the other side. It's kind of nice that I painted this already so I can see like how dark it's gonna be when it dries. If I'm noticing, oh, that did not dry dark enough, that's really pretty light, then I know that I can add an extra layer of paint to it with less water. Now, this is gonna check and make sure it's looking like it's matching for my symmetry and my design. And this is my thicker line, okay? Then, we'll go back here. Looks like this could become a little bit darker. These lines can be a little bit darker too. And then if you do ever want to fill something all the way in, like say I want the tips of these to be all the way black, you can fill something in, you just need to make sure that it's gonna be dark enough with enough paint. And then if I do that on one side, I'll do it on the other side. So I still have some design that I'd like to do, but we're gonna just pretend that it's done. And then it's, oh, be careful too if you do that you don't get too much on the table, because you need to be thinking to yourself, if I get paint on the table, then that could affect my design on this side, because I don't want paint ending up from that back section getting on the front side. So keep that in mind. but I think that these will turn out really cool. Make sure that you are using lots of paint and not a lot of water so that this will dry quick. Then you can flip it over and then you can paint the other side too, and then this will dry quickly as well. So I hope we enjoy this.